morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. Despite every generation introducing roughly 100 Pokemon or more, well, at least if you include forms, there always seems to be a select few that rise to the top as fan favorites. Sometimes it may be for their in-game viability, or sometimes their unique ability to smack Corviknight out of the sky. But more often than not, the thing that usually elevates a Pokemon above all the rest is their design. But what exactly makes a good Pokemon design? That is the question I'm here to answer today. But when it comes to good designs, a company that may know a thing or two would be the sponsor of today's video, Holzkern. Look, Pokemon fans, I know you're probably wondering, why do I need a watch? I can just check my phone anytime. But a good watch is like a good partner Pokemon, and you don't want to be stuck with a Pidgey or a Rattata. You want something stylish, maybe a nice Umbreon or Greninja. The reason I chose to work with Holzkern was not only because of how high quality the products are, but also because of the sheer amount of different options they offer. If you want something to match your favorite color or favorite Pokemon, then they have it, including men's jewelry in case you're looking for another opportunity to look suave. Holzkern also has lovely watches, jewelry, and handbags for women. So if you need a great gift for the Nurse Joy or Officer Jenny in your life, then this is the place to look. And between you and me, the best part is my friends can now ask, what time is it? And I can say, time to get a watch, and they might actually laugh. And that's very valuable to me. Right now, Holzkern is celebrating their 7th birthday, which means using my code down below, POKE15, that's POKE15, you can get 15% off all products on their site, plus a free polishing cloth worth more than $15. Thank you, Holzkern, for sponsoring. Let's get back to the video. So to begin with an example of a Pokemon that is almost universally agreed upon to be a good design, say with me, Charizard. You can say this Pokemon is egregiously overrated or gets more time in the sun than a redneck on race day, but put those feelings aside for a moment and just level with me here. Why is it that Charizard is so much more popular than Blastoise or Venusaur? Could it be because flying dragons that breathe fire are inherently cool? Well, yeah, probably. But compared to the other starters it has to compete with, Blastoise is a fine design, I like it, but it is comparably dull. If the cannons weren't there, then it would just be a bigger Squirtle. Venusaur suffers from the opposite problem. It's comparably over-designed and not as aesthetically pleasing. You can even tell this gives Game Freak problems when attempting to give it a new form such as a Mega Evolution or a G-Max form. Venusaur is already such a filled-out design that it's difficult to add much else to it. If anything, the G-Max form actually looks like it takes away some elements of the original design. As for the Mega, flower butt. That about sums up how dried up the Idea Well was. I know a lot of us hate when Charizard gets a new form, but you have to admit its design does lend well to creative ideas. Well, Megazard Y is mostly the same, but we can look past that. It also definitely helps that the entire Charmander family has one of the most iconic design elements in the entire series. The flame at the tip of their tails and it being tied to their lifespan. Sure, the anime helped with that a bit, but if you just looked at the tip of Charizard's tail and nothing else, even complete outsiders could probably guess what Pokemon this is. Even with Blastoise, they're able to play around with the cannon motif quite a bit. So I guess my first point, especially in this modern era where Pokemon transform more than Decepticons, be it Megas, regional variants, or anything else, is that the design is somewhat malleable and can offer something new in the future. I think the best example of this is Slowbro, a Pokemon who has received every form under the sun. Put the shell on its head, you get a new branched evolution. Make the shell envelop its entire body, you got a Mega Evolution. Put it on its arm, you got a Galarian form. Slowbro is the Pokemon that keeps on giving because they can play around with its core design element, the shell, in a multitude of ways. And it's from Gen 1. If we move on to the more modern starters, we can see another shift happening. The attack of the humanoid, some might call it. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like Skeledirge is one of, if not the most popular final starter evolution in nearly a decade. Could it be that fire-breathing ghostly crocodiles are inherently cool? I'm beginning to sense a trend here. But more likely, it's probably because Skeledirge actually sticks to its animal roots. And that's despite Skeledirge having human-like ideas imbued in its design. It's meant to be a singer. But that motif feels more like a natural addition on top of what it already was, a fire crocodile. If you compare it to Meowscarada or Quaquaval, it feels much more natural because the human aspects of their designs override the original animal aspects, to the point where there's a disconnect between their final forms and their base ones. Sure, the middle stages help bridge this a bit, but take those away for a minute and you can still tell that Skeledirge is clearly the final stage of Fuecoco. Sprigatito to Meowscarada, well, not so much. And hey, if you like Meowscarada and Quaquaval, I'm not picking on you. I actually do like them, I'm just pointing out why Skeledirge has emerged as the clear favorite. But that's not to imply that all humanoid Pokemon designs are bad. Take Empoleon, or Infernape, or Greninja, for example. They clearly have human aspects tied into their designs. I mean, Empoleon is literally a reference to Napoleon, but those ideas mesh much better with their core design elements. An Emperor Penguin and a monkey. Or in Greninja's case, it just pulls off the transition from a frog to a ninja really well. It's less jarring to see these little guys turn into this than it is to see Litten over here become a professional wrestler. But I think we've dwelled on starter Pokemon long enough, so why not move on to another universally loved design? Scizor. Scizor is a unique case of a Pokemon that differs drastically from its pre-evolution in both typing and coloration. We can blame the metal coat for that one, but it does keep Scyther's unique body style and its relatively clean and agile design. This same design philosophy can be seen on other popular Pokemon that are meant to be seen as cool or ferocious, such as Absol or Luxray. Chances are, if you're a fan of one of these Pokemon, you also like the other two. It also probably helps that these three Pokemon all have designs to where you can easily identify what types they are, but their designs deviate a lot from what you'd expect Pokemon of those types to look like. Take Scizor, for example. You can easily see the bug and steel elements in its design, but it looks nothing like the bug or steel type Pokemon of its time. And as a result, it really stands out from the crowd. Absol is clearly a dark type thanks to its horn and ominous appearance, but stands out as a Pokemon that is almost as white as I am. And with Luxray, the only indication you get that it's an electric type is its star-shaped tail, yellow accents, and its frenzied-looking hair. I think this also could have passed as part dark type, but I digress. Nonetheless, it's a slick design that doesn't compromise the identity of the evolution line, but lets you know exactly what you're getting at the same time. And so, one of the many trademarks of a well-designed Pokemon is accurately portraying the type of that Pokemon, but being careful not to step into generic territory. Now, what about over-designed Pokemon? Pokemon designs have clearly gotten a bit busier as time marches on, but it's understandable why. I mean, Krabby took the design of just being a crab, so clearly the next crab Pokemon was going to need some sort of added feature to help differentiate it from the one that came before. Are these busier looking designs inherently bad? No. A lot of them are quite good actually. And we have seen cases in the past where being too simple can also be a detriment. Think of the Johto Final Starter Evolutions, for example. Now, of course, they're popular because, duh, they're starters. But they do catch their fair share of deserved criticism for not pushing much beyond the limits of their base forms. Meganium is Chikorita with a flower around its neck, Feraligatr is Totodile with spikes, and Typhlosion is essentially just a large Cyndaquil. And think back to what I said earlier about types and defining features. One issue that Typhlosion has fought since the jump to 3D is his flames typically not being activated. With the flames being off, the core identity of the Pokemon is lost. How is anyone remotely new to Pokemon supposed to look at this model and know anything about this Pokemon? Now, thankfully, Typhlosion has overcome this issue in the newest installments, but nonetheless, he serves as a good case study of the dangers of making a design too simple. If you lose that core design element, the whole thing becomes unmemorable. Compare this to, once again, Skeledirge. It's by no means a simple design, but people love it because it passes on two different scorecards: memorability and inspiration. If you've watched my other videos where I discuss Skeledirge, then I'm probably going to sound like a broken record here, but it's hard not to appreciate how many different concepts are melted into this one Pokemon. The ghost typing, the Dia de los Muertos aesthetic, the little firebird that references the Egyptian plover which cleans the teeth of the Nile crocodile, but also turns into a microphone to circle back around to the singer motif. Can you see how many different things are being blended together so well here? Another one of my favorite examples of this is Dragapult, based on the fossil of an extinct amphibian whose tailbones were never completely found, inspiring its ghostly translucent tail. But it also takes inspiration from stealth bomber planes that fire missiles just as it fires its own young, all while having the body markings of an aircraft catapult from where it derives its name. Now that is an inspired Pokemon. I think over-designed Pokemon only get the criticism they deserve when they can't justify having that many design elements. For example, let's look at 3 different dragon types from 3 different generations: Druddigon, Eternatus, and Giratina. These are all relatively complicated designs, but I guarantee if I ran a poll right now, most people would probably say the best designed one is Giratina. Of course, nostalgia probably plays a role in that, but despite this Pokemon having so much going on, it has design elements that you can latch onto and recognize easily. The spooky wings, the 6 legs, the 6 spikes, the 6 neck thingies. There's a lot going on here, but it feels like it rhymes, like it goes together. When you look at Dredigan, it just feels like a bunch of mismatched colors on an overly spiky dragon with not much clear reasoning as to why it looks like that. Same with Eternatus, it's just complex to look complex, there's not really anything to latch onto. And as a whole, it just seems kinda over the top. There can be beauty in over-designed Pokemon, I think the issue is just that it's much harder to make everything land. But you can also go the opposite direction and have Pokemon that completely fade into the backgrounds of people's minds for being too simple or samey. Cascoon and Silcoon are two Pokemon that even I, as a Pokemon mega fan for more than 20 years, still can't remember which one is which. Not only are they boring retreads of the same Cocoon middle stage Pokemon which we've seen since Generation 1, which thankfully future generations have somewhat moved away from, but they're also so similar to each other that both come off as dull and uninspired. This same criticism extends to some of the most widely hated Pokemon of all time, the Unova Monkey Trio. Although there actually is some rather inspired lore behind these Pokemon, most people don't seem to care at all because they're seen as forgettable reskins of each other. Simisear has notably been deemed as the least popular Pokemon of all time on multiple occasions. And I'm sure living in Infernape's shadow as the lesser Fire Monkey hasn't helped. Having common design elements to indicate related species isn't at all a bad thing. Take the fan-favorite beast trio of Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, for example. They all have those face plates and big cushion thingies on their backs to indicate some relation, and this is infinitely better received than the Forces of Nature, who just look like one Pokemon was put into Photoshop and they just slid the hue slider around. While we're on the topic, let's discuss some more Gen 5 Pokemon designs, since that generation was probably one of the most berated for its designs when those games first came out. Of course, with Black and White being a quote-unquote soft reboot of the series, even though in the long run it really wasn't, the staff intentionally designed most of the Pokemon to be as simple as possible to harken back to the days of Gen 1. Oh, the irony that Gen 1ers hated these designs the most! An example of a well-executed simple design from this generation would be Blitzel or Zebstrika. They are pretty much just zebras, but with just enough of an indication that they are electric zebras. It's a good marriage of the animal and the typing to create something charming. Or heck, do I even have to mention Braviary? Sure, it's remarkably on the nose, but what else do you expect an eagle Pokemon from an American region to look like? On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have some Pokemon who get well-deserved flack for this. Cryogonal is in no way memorable because it's an ice type that is just a snowflake. It feels like no thought went into this at all. Or Clink, a steel-type pair of gears. Gears are already made of steel, so it doesn't come off as particularly creative. And that's why you see these Pokemon receive more criticism than something like Execute, who at least plays with the idea that they're seeds and not eggs. Or Geodude, who is... Actually, that's just a rock, I stand corrected. Anyway, I don't want to reignite a Gen 1 versus Gen 5 flame war, so I'll just say that all generations have designs that work, and all have ones that don't. There's no sense in saying that one is all good or all bad. Or Pokemon used to look way cooler back in the day, but now they don't. I just think that discourse is all rather silly. Wow, I know, what an ice-cold and reasonable take! So what makes a good Pokemon design? I guess the short answer is, there is no singular thing. It's how well the concepts are combined, it's how well those concepts evolve with the Pokemon. It's the inspiration or real-life lore behind them. It's being unique in a sea of things that look the same. At the end of the day, of course, most of this is purely subjective. But I hope this video pointed out a few of the common things that most people look for in a Pokemon design. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. I'll see you guys next time.